life aboard the Saga, that's an amazing experience. You get to the real world like the fishermen, the professional fishermen get to do it. You get to go out and get hands-on, pull the long lines in, get the silvers. You get to pull the crab pots. You get it all. Or you could just sit and watch.
Petersburg was like a little fishing town. You come into this teeny little airport where you see the plane coming down and you don't think you have enough runway to land this big old plane.
The neat thing about Petersburg, there's no cruise ships come in, so it's a real fishing town. And so because you don't get all the tourists, it's just nice and quaint, a lot of fun. I like to walk around the harbor and just look at all the big fishing boats.
One of the good parts for me was spending a lot of time on the bridge with the captain, Dennis. Now Dennis grew up in that part of the world. He knows it like the back of his hand. And Dennis knows the currents, the islands, what is safe and what isn't.
And then one day we spent trolling where Dennis on the boat would stick his big old outriggers out. It's just line after line going out there, and then have these little bells on the end, and the bells would ring, and Dennis would be like, we got one on there, and we got one on there, and you start bringing the fish in on these hooks, and it's just one after another.
You got to run your gaff out there, hook that silver, flip it up in the boat. Don't lose the gaff, because your captain's watching. He's over your shoulder, and about half the time he's yelling at you, telling you how to do this.
The whales, with the bubble fishing, it was an absolutely marvelous experience, an education. You know, one sees it on the television, but it's not the same. When you're like 20 yards away from these whales, it's an absolutely stunning experience.
There were like 15 humpback whales come right out of the water with their mouths open, wide, just full of a herring or krill or something, I don't know what it was. Breath stunk so bad, it kind of scared us just a little bit.
One day we went out clamming, which was a real thrill. I've never been that far, and they were, I assumed was going to find one or two, but they were stacked just like rocks. Within a few minutes I had a 5-gallon bucket full.
We dug a hole there about a yard by a yard and filled buckets of clams, 3-4 inches across, beautiful clams, which we cooked on the ship.
One of the fun things we did that not many people have ever done is we've long lined for halibut. We take and hook, run a series of hooks on a line that's weighted down at each end, so we'll maybe have a couple hundred hooks. After it soaks for a few hours, we'll hook that on the winch, bring it up to the surface, and you never know what we're going to see. Hopefully we'll have a couple 100-pound halibuts and some smaller ones on there, but you never know what you're going to bring up from the bottom of the ocean.
We'd take a little skiff on high tide and we'd go into this big bay, and we'd go in on the river, and as we were going in, the tide's coming out, and we're just huffing and puffing trying to get into this river, and it's a hoot. You're going in, the silvers are rising and jumping, and your heart's pumping and excited, and you get your lure on and get it in the water. And I remember catching these pinks because you couldn't keep them off your line. They're all over the place, and just thinking this was the best thing in the world. And a couple of the guys that were with us were laughing at me and said, "Hey, you haven't even caught the real fish yet. You're catching the trash fish." And these are 3-4 pound pinks, and then all of a sudden we got into a big pool and hooked into my first silver, and it was just jumping and doing tails flapping around and wrapping the line around him, and I mean, it was awesome.
One of my favorite dishes is shrimp. We did beam shrimp, dragging this great big tree horizontally along the ocean floor with a net behind it, and then picking up the net, emptying it, and working like slaves, processing these shrimp. It was a great experience.
We went out that first night, we threw shrimp pots out. And man, we got these shrimp pots, we brought them in, and just huge prawns. And we cooked them up, and man, we had first of all, we had peel and eat shrimp. Then we made up some shrimp omelets. Then we ended up with shrimp chowder. Finally, we got so sick of shrimp that we had to pull up some crab pots and start eating crab. It was really tough.
It's almost like a gourmet meal in kind of a rough kitchen, but it's comfortable. You get to listen to all the stories, all the lies the fishermen have that night, and all of Dennis's folk stories and everything else while he's cooking and serving and eating with you.
We got down to the Saga and took off on the boat. It was just, you know, it's an old working fishing boat. It's nice and comfortable and warm, but man, it's a blue-collar kind of a fishing boat. I didn't really understand what stateroom meant, but what stateroom means on a boat, on a fishing boat, is you got a room with 2 bunks and you got another room with 2 bunks. So basically it's a nice comfortable sleeping room, but it may not be called a master suite.
It's pretty amazing when you're sitting there with a fish on your line and you look across the stream and there's a bear watching you. They tell you to drop the tip of your pole, but now you're thinking, okay, this is the big one. I want to bring this one in. You raise it back up, bear's watching you.
But it was a lot funner to watch bears when you was with your buddy. Because when you watch bears without your buddy, it gets a little scary. It's not too scary with the buddy because he can't run quite as fast as I can.
I've traveled a lot, and this was a unique experience in a wonderful part of the world.